Hello there, my dudes and dudettes all across the post-war landscape. This is the Therapy Couch, and I am your host, Sigmund Dude. I'm coming to you live, or recorded if you got here late, whatever man, with a rant full of enlightened truth and a beverage in my hand. So dudes, dudettes, life in the irradiated post-war world is a bummer, man. It's a bummer. It seems like everyone you meet is trying to kill your buzz, usually with a bullet. So let's talk about these eye killer, is that what they're called? Eye killer? Eye killer, yeah, that's them. Let's talk about these eye killer guys. I can't call them dudes because they are most uncool, man. Most uncool. Like they radiate really bad vibes. These assholes, broadcasting code. These jacks have been stealing, killing, and fading back into the night for the past 15 years. And no one knows where they come from. They seem to be everywhere, man. I got Brotherhood expats that say they fought them in Chicago. These cats said that the eye killers shot down their Brotherhood vertibirds, that they have guns that can turn off power armor. No one knows how they do it, man. No one. They strike in the middle of the night and they never seem to miss. No one ever hears them coming. And this isn't just the Chicago Protectorate they strike in, my dudes and dudettes. Oh no. The Connies tell tales of these guys showing up in the middle of the night and murdering whole camps of Brahmin punchers. And I got sock friends that say they've seen them attack some of the forts out near Toronto. Yeah, right across the trenchworks, man. I got Quebecois dudes. No foxtails, mind you. Screw those jacks. I got Quebecois friends that say they've seen them in the north out by the Ottawa. These eye killers, they ain't no boogeyman, dudes and dudettes. They are a really, really harsh bad trip, man. A really, really bad trip. Worse, it's what they do to the bodies they leave behind. You might want to get any little kids away from the radio. See, these jacks got their moniker, their sobriquet, their nickname from what they do to the dead. They scoop out their eyeballs, man. Yeah, I said it. You heard me right. They scoop out their eyeballs. And of course, no one knows why, just like they don't know why these jacks do anything that they do. But before you feel moved to pity the horrific childhood filled with torture, violence, and bad drugs that molded young minds, let me give you something to keep in mind. These jacks show up in the dark and no one hears or sees them coming. They can shut down advanced pre-war tech, and they take people's eyes before fading back into the night. You know what that means, my dudes? That means these jacks, they're the man. They're the man. I'm talking with a capital M. The man, the government, man. These guys are remainders of the old pre-war governments. I know it sounds like I should be wearing a tinfoil keeper, but listen to me before you dismiss my jazz, man. They're taking our eyes to further their genetic experiments. The eyes are the windows of the soul. That's what the ancients used to say. And they were right, man, but not like in any mystical sense, but in a sense that what the eyes can open. Because you see, dudes and dudettes, your eyes have this thing called a retina. It's a little filament in the back thingy. And before the asshats that ran the world brought us a bright, glowing nuclear sunset, there were all these scanners that read the retina of military people and eggheads to open doors. And what might be behind those doors? Nothing good, my dudes. Nothing good. Nothing good, my dudes and dudettes. Nothing good. Oh. Sorry. Needed a toke of the thistle leaf. Then we got these monsters closer to home. And between these guys and the skunker pines, I take a horde of the pines, man. They call themselves the Patriots. These guys go around waving the old American flag, and I don't mean the one with 50 stars that flies next to the gander wrap, my dudes and dudettes. I mean that ugly thing, the ugly imperialistic scar of a flag with that big star in the blue field. These Patriot Jacks are not about the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or freedom of any kind, and they sure as spit aren't about the First Amendment, as if you say something they don't like, they show up with baseball bats to change your opinion. These jacks are about control, man. Straight up control. See, after those idiots on Capitol Hill helped starting their wonderful worldwide landscaping project, They really worked up the masses against anyone who looked Asian. Didn't matter that we invaded China. Didn't matter that we basically started the damn war. Oh no, it was all the Chinks' fault, man. So these so-called patriots have continued the tradition of Sino hatred. They harass anyone that looks vaguely Sino, man. They break into their stores, wreck their stuff, not take it, just wreck it. That's like one of the cardinal sins in the post-apocalypse, man. We need shit. They beat up cats just trying to make a living. And well, you can imagine what they do sometimes to the women. These patriots aren't like other gangs. Oh man, that's good. With a hideout and a uniform. Nope. No post-app hot couture for these jacks. These little slime balls hide out in towns and governments and try to get us to turn on each other if we don't all think alike. By which they mean, of course, crawling along with their own slow little evolutionary crawl. These patriots dress in dark colors and wear masks so they can blend in with one another, man. That way no one knows who they are and can point them out to the security forces. And like all cowards, they travel in packs and beat anyone they think is a Sino lover or thinks too independently for them. Not cool, man. Oh, it's not cool. I gotta slow down. Make it last. I confess to you, the dude is talking here, man. I confess to you, dear listener, that the dude has had sometimes been the target of these attacks from these so-called patriots. And though I wish peace and love on everyone through the power of better pharmaceuticals, don't pass the roach to these jacks, man. Just don't do it. Who knows what they'll see when they're up. Then I hear tell out the Connie way, up north, there are werewolves prowling in the forest. Yep, howl at the moon type werewolves. Oh, I'm being a little hyperbolic, I'm sure. I mean, it's probably just some kind of fuzzy mutant. In fact, that's what folk up there call them, fuzzies. And they hunt in the dark and steal Brahmin at night. Some jacks have been mauled by them, and a few people will tell you they have scalps they've taken from them. But before you go up there, don't worry about having to buy silver bullets to frighten them one bit. You aren't going to get a fur coat if you get bit or howl at the moon. Near as I can tell, the fuzzies have been haunting those woods out there for at least a century. I got Gazette articles here and journals that speak about them from at least that long ago, so they ain't going anywhere soon. If you head out that way, make sure you go in a group, though. Those backwoods are not a place to be, a lone wanderer. Oh. And then, over towards the east, we got our fox-tailed, Frenchy-speaking antagonists with their rifles and their bad breath. And when these jacks get bored of popping shots across the trench works at what's left of the Ottawans, they make noises about revisiting us. Now, I'm a dedicated pacifist, man, but the reason I have to keep a rifle near my bunk is in case these foxtail hat-wearing jacks come knocking again. I used to live out with the Sauk near Toronto. Not a night went by when someone wasn't shot at for being red. Walking while Indian is a crime out that way, at least from the Frenchy side of the trench works. Ever since the Forefather War, the Quebecois have been becoming more racist and imperialist. From what I hear, they have medtechs out there doing blood tests on people to be sure that they are pure enough. And if you haven't got the right blood, man, you can fight and work for them, but they'll never let you speak in their parliament to their dudes, or hold any government job with authority. It's like they want to make the old world's Germans look like amateurs. The Yoopers and the Sauk tangle with them the most, and I'm hell of okay with that. Make fun of a Yooper for his mishmash language all you like, but Yoopers are damn good shots. And Yoopers are ganders. And all ganders, I think, could use a few foxtails in their collection. Worse those for those behind that French fence. The living conditions are horrible, man. It's not like here in Lansing with the lights and the nightlife. Oh no. I know folks stuck behind that line of barbed wire and berms, that though they may speak French, they have gander hearts, my dudes and dudettes. And these jacks, they're just trying to change the foxtail tribe for the better. And when you can't read what you like, speak what you like, or trade with what you like, how can you fight, man? They've tried to overthrow Parliament twice up there. They even tried their own version of the Boston Tea Party on one of the lakes. But the ministers up there just shot all the families that participated all the way to the third generation and placed a big red suspicious mark on those of the seventh descendants. All the way from their original patriot. Can you imagine that, man? 7 generations? From the original patriot who stood up just for his human rights, man? Striving to be free, to be a jack. It's a bummer, man. It's a bummer. It's a damn shame. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I hate them. Those suit-wearing tyrants that think they live in the New Versailles. They're just as bad as the forefathers, but their religion is the state rather than a badly translated book. And since we're talking about, well, they aren't really to the north, but some of them are up north. Since we're talking about the north, it ain't got enough that we got mutants, raiders, and ghouls up there. Oh no. I'm sure you know people that have seen those 12-foot tall, bulletproof, super strong cannibal gorillas that live up there. Natives up there have named them Wendigos, from the Indian legends. You might have heard of these large mutated lizard things down south called death claws. Well, a Wendigo is kind of like that. Picture one of those big 12-foot monsters, but now cover it with fur, and it's able to hunt in the winter. That's a Wendigo. Worse, the things seem blessed with an almost human intelligence. Trappers up there say that those Wendigos can lay ambushes, they'll hunt you, they'll throw rocks and sticks. I know one trapper says he even saw one figure out how to use a grenade. The only mercy in the whole proposition of giant killer mutant gorillas is that they seem to only stay up there. They won't attack you if you run away. They only attack if you venture too close to one of their nests. So if you happen to see a 12-foot tall furry simian death machine, run. If you're lucky, you might just get away, my dudes and dudettes. Oh. Whatever you do, don't try to fight them, man. Just don't do it. That's a really bad trip. I got holotapes here from a group of reclaimers that went up that way. They were up there to help some loggers. I'll never forget this sound, man. It's the sound of a reclaimer knight being torn in half through his power armor. I swear to you, the Wendigo that did it is laughing. If you wander south or west, you're going to come across some guys. Oh, yeah, it's good. They have some feathered cloaks. Be cautious around these jacks, man. They call themselves ravens. And they may look like primitive tribals. And they may seem helpful, but they can turn on you. See, they say they follow the messages of this raven totem, whatever that is, about how to survive in the irradiated wastes. And these tribals wander around the wilderness and stake out places they don't think anybody should go into. Now, at first, a bunch of tribals doesn't seem like something you need to be afraid of. I know. You got your Class 2A pre-war combat armor. You got your AR-37 with 300 rounds. Oh, man, that's good. You got your crew of hardened-blooded men and a jack and cobbled-up power armor. But I don't mean Drek. Those ravens have freaky witches, man. And though I have seen a lot of stuff while I am up that I am sure wasn't real, these witches can do Drek that will make you feel like you're in an old comic book, man. They can lift rocks at their minds and call down lightning. Like ghouls that have been out in the radiation for too long, these jacks got some weird powers. Only good thing about it is they seem to have some kind of code. If you don't cross an area they've staked out, they'll be fine with you. They'll even share some of their killer thistle leaf for you, for your pipe or your bowl. They cultivate the really good strains out there in the burning plains, man. Really good stuff. Oh, I swear, man, that thistle leaf's the only religion you might ever need. One drag, and you'll love everyone that needs loving. Then there are scrap heads, scavengers that get really angsty and trigger happy if you run around their mark too much. Some call them prospectors or scabbers, but in general, they're just junk merchants. I don't hold that against them. Jack's got to make a living however he can in the Big Bad Post app. But putting a bullet in that Jack just because you think they might be too near your stash? Bad karma, man. Really bad karma. Then we got people that just can't let the old world die. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for the revival of the Republican Society and all that, man, but there are things in the pre-war world that just need to be, left to rest and die in peace. There's a reason the pre-war world killed itself, man. And one of these was the concept of tribes. Tribes divide us, man. Tribes cause us to abandon our reason, our individuality, and we sell it for a sense of belonging. And nowhere is that more evident than all the minor tribes you see running around the wasteland, some of which are murderously exclusive. Let's take the Bears. The Bears were forced out of the Chicago Protectorate for all the right reasons. They stood up to the Protectorate doctors demanding they take cyber implants or be considered threats to the peace. And they lost that battle, and they took to the wilderness, their own version of the biblical Exodus. If you don't know what that is, read a book, man. There's plenty of Bibles out there. Find one. But out there in those harsh stalks and the unrelenting song, the bears changed, man. Instead of a political movement, they became a tribe. You can tell them by their old sports jerseys or mock-ups thereof. Football helmets from the past are their most prized possession, and they worship a god they call Ditka. Can you imagine that, man? Bowing to a god you call a dick. Oh, they worship him with this violent sport in which men die, bloodied and battered. And all to put a pigskin bladder on a piece of turf. And as crazy as that sounds, man, this is not something they made up. I do prodigious amounts of chems, and I think this is crazy. But apparently, back in the pre-war world, there were cities that had teams that did this. There were leagues, man. Injuries. Horrible, horrible injuries all over the place. Encouraging men to just batter and beat one another, man. That's a bad trip. That's some bad karma, man. The good news is, most of them ain't too bright from repeated hits to the head. But the bad news is, most of them are violent sociopaths for the very same reason. Well, at least they help keep some of the raider gangs culled. And before you feel all sanctimonious, my gander brother and sisters, and think that we singers could never devolve to such an obsession, let me remind you about our own homegrown cult of the wing. These jacks are our own homegrown sports gang. I know, you're about to make an argument about how hockey dissuades conflicts and lifts tensions, how it helped end one of the conflicts we had, the Quebecois, and you're surely going to defend the cult as being just very dedicated players, man. You probably memorized every Winterfest game they've beaten the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Leafheads, but keep in mind, man, what these jacks do the rest of the year. The beatdowns, the alley fights, and the worshiping of a giant silver cup that they promise to fill with the blood of their enemies. Yeah, stable jacks, these man. Very stable and steadfast. Sure. Then we got the Ords and the Kevies. These two rival gangs have been feuding ever since they lost a battle to the Corvegan Continentals. And it doesn't matter that the CCs have been defunct for over a century now, man. You can still see these two jacks groups wearing old hood ornaments and car parts into battles with one another. And why? Because a long time ago, two car companies screwed each other over, allowing their rival to take over the market? These jacks are beating each other's heads in, man, over tech that hasn't even moved in 2 centuries. Besides, GMCs were better from what I read. But it ain't all bad. Of all the minor tribes out there, I gotta say, it ain't all bad. Because we got the Motown people too, man. These cats built a culture around music, food, and making people feel better. It is a more hip version of peace and love and rock and roll, man. As you can imagine, I am a fan. And though they can get a bit preachy about the use of recreational chems in general, Motown Jack's a stand-up jack. They're open-minded and willing to live and let live. Just don't destroy anything musical in their presence. I would highly advise you against burning any sheet music for warmth or stretching out a holotape. Put up with the playing of brass and strings for all hours if you go out there, and beware they smoke a lot of baccy. So be prepared for that if you go out that way. Oh, and don't ever, ever talk dread about someone's mama out there, man. Bad idea. Speaking of bad ideas, last but not least, we got the Knights of the Sky, the Brotherhood of Steel. The boss are a mighty force of jacks that hoard all the pre-war tech they can. They confiscate it. Other people would call that stealing. Wherever they find it. And they say it's to keep us safe, man. They say a man can't be trusted with advanced technology. Of course, they're men themselves, so that logic of that argument's kind of spurious, if you ask me. And I'm up. They say, look at the war as proof. I'd believe them if they weren't preaching at me from over the barrels of their laser rifles. But the boss is a mixed bag of dudes, man. I hear plenty of people say they're the saviors of mankind, and I hear that out east, the Washington chapter are downright decent folks, but even though these boss guys tried to double cross us in the Forefather War, I'll be fair. These jacks tried to double cross us during the Forefather War. We all know that. That's how we got the Reclaimers. But my fellow Ganders, I gotta admit, the boss has kept its word. Has even helped us track down Raider gangs since then. The thing is, though, and I know this is just my opinion or whatever, man, but all I've seen of this group we got that's around Chicago, the boss that's based there, is that they're goons, man. They're goons for the Protectorate. I mean, think about it. They police the Protectorate's fields. They keep the procs in line. And they will even recruit from the procs rather than their own boss families. Something I hear they don't do anywhere else. Who are the procs? Well, you got your everyday refugee who became a proc, sure. But those jacks are never going to get into the arcs, do they? They stay behind those triple walls the Protectorate maintains and plow or blacksmith or whatever is a good little slave. The procs, the Protectorate, they run the Brotherhood, man. They command it like a man does his dog. And I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. We see the Brotherhood all the time flying about and marching in their power armor. We never see any procs doing that, do we? We never see procs run around maintaining their land with carrying weapons and running patrols and doing security work. And why? Some people say, well, the procs never come up from behind their triple wall, so they don't really need to. But man, let me tell you, the reason they don't come out behind that triple wall is because the boss doesn't let them. Why doesn't the boss let them? Because your average proc may be a stand-up jack, but their society's run by the arcs, man. And the arcs hardly ever come out of the arcs at all. Oh, my bad, man. I may have lost you. An arc. It's short for arcology. That's a man-made, self-contained environment of a massive scale, man. Before the war, Chicago, New York, some other places all had arcs being built for the well-to-do. And those that serve them, of course, because you want your maid to be within shouting distance if you got to call her. But unlike a Vault-Tec vault, arcs didn't catch on. People were worried that when the bombs fell, the whole thing would come down. Well, it turns out that the arcs that were built had a secret. And it's like something out of Star Trek, man. They had energy screens built into them that dissipated radiation. The buildings were built out of triple-layered ferrocrete, so that they could actually be less than a mile from a blast crater of a 1 megaton bomb, and the building would make it through. They had electromagnetic pulse protection put in all the wiring. And what does that mean? That means that the arcs are probably the only truly radiation-free places to live in the wastelands that are left, and they have power and clean water and pre-war computers. They probably have the only full history and libraries left of the entire human race. And it sits there in Protectorate arcs, man. Under guard. The arcs have names like Memphis Sebek, Xanadu, Shangri-La, Nirvana, Mashamayim. They glow at night, man. You can see them as the screens light up, dissipating the radiation in the air. And those aren't the only wonders I hear reported. I hear the Arcanauts, people that live in the arcs, are completely disease-free. That they never age past their early 20s. And that if you were to cut one, you can watch it heal right over before your eyes and it won't create a scar. I heard one trader said he saw an Arcanaut wave his hand at a robot, and the robot left its master and started obeying the Arcanaut. Folk even say the Arcanauts can communicate with one another wordlessly by radio transceivers built into their heads. Yeah, I know. Star Trek sci-fi dreck, man. But all of it's true. Is it that hard to believe, with that tech, that they could be the ones controlling the Brotherhood? I've heard tales of arcs having a very strange selection process. We've seen their humanitarian drives to take in refugees from time to time. But did you know that's supplemented by slave trade? I know some hard jacks that got out of the life say that they sold slaves to the procs, and that all these slaves were very young. Of course, the Brotherhood denies it. But you ask me, the procs are even bigger threat to the Gander way of life than the forefathers. But I got faith, man. I got faith. Not in the sense of it's all going to work out in some cosmic plot resolution. No, no. No, man, I may be up, but I'm also down. There's going to be blood spilt. Lives are going to be lost in a burning time. It's coming. But wildfires are needed sometimes to clear the forest floor so that new life, better life, can grow. And that's where we are at, my fellow Ganders. And I do mean all of you, whether you're a singer like me, a sock, a kick, a youper, or hell, even if you're a stick-back Connie. We are in this horrible post-apocalypse together. And we are the only ones we can really trust because we're the only ones that really care. Remember that. No matter how dark the nights get or how much the rad storms thunder, we are Ganders, and Lansing remembers.